The clouds hung low the day they buried her mother. The dusty village road in Umuahia stirred with quiet murmurs as mourners returned to their homes, leaving behind a girl with cropped hair and a defiant jaw standing over a freshly filled grave. Chinelo didn't cry. She couldn't afford to. Obi clung to her faded shirt with one hand while Sandra, the youngest, rubbed her tired eyes. Chinelo looked down at them, her voice flat. "We go there all right. Just follow me." That was the last time they ever saw comfort. Life after Mama's death was a free fall. Chinelo was only 15, but she bore the weight of a woman 3 times her age. With no relatives willing to take them in, they remained in their mother's old mud brick room at the edge of the compound. Each day brought hunger, and hunger sharpened Chinelo's teeth. She tried everything: fetching water for neighbors, sweeping compounds, even molding blocks at building sites. But the pay was crumbs, and work was inconsistent. Some days, after trekking miles to find a job, she'd return with nothing but cracked feet and angry cries of Obi and Sandra, waiting for Gary that wasn't coming. One hot Thursday, her stomach growling louder than the market bell, Chinelo made a decision she once swore never to make. She followed a distracted trader through a narrow alley behind the main market. His pocket bulged slightly as he counted wads of naira. Chinelo waited. When he paused to buy roasted plantain, she slid her finger into his back pocket and snatched a bundle of notes. She ran until her legs could no longer move. Back in their room, she locked the door, spread the notes on the mat and froze. Blank paper, folded like real cash, wrapped in a real note, every single one. The first time she stole food, it was leftover jollof rice from a church meeting. She and her siblings devoured it. The next day, all 3 were vomiting. She had to carry Sandra to a chemist shop, begging the man to treat her on credit. "Now God go punish who they cook poison food," she swore. Word began to spread. Chinelo dey unlucky. The street boys would whisper, nudging each other. "If she follow you steal, forget am." She didn't blame them. Once, a group of boys planned a phone snatch at the bus stop. Chinelo begged to join them. They refused, but she followed them secretly. Just as they made the grab, a woman screamed her name from the next street. The crowd turned. 2 of the boys were caught. Chinelo escaped, but her name became taboo in the street gang circles. Still, she kept trying. For Obi and Sandra. At night, after lighting their candles with the last drop of kerosene, Chinelo would sit and scrape akara crumbs into their mouths while whispering promises. "One day, you go get better life. Una go school. Una go wear uniform. Even me, I go get sure." But even promises tasted bitter on empty stomachs. The days blurred together in heat, hustle, and humiliation. Chinelo wore the same 3 shirts in rotation: one navy blue, one orange, one with faded keep calm print that made no sense to her. Her hair remained low cut, her walk broad and sharp like a boy's. Her eyes, though young, carried the weight of battles lost and survived. Nobody knew her heart was soft, not even Obi and Sandra, who only saw her as their savior. By the time she turned 17, Chinelo had stopped coping. She existed between luckless theft and hard labor, between anger, between hunger and guilt. No one trusted her. It was another morning, with no food in their stomachs. Chinelo stood by the roadside, watching workers in faded overalls and muddy boots walk into a construction site. She approached the foreman. "Oga, I fit carry block." He didn't even look at her. "We don't fool." She tried 2 more sites. The answer was the same. Her hands were already calloused, her feet blistered. She turned away, her throat dry, her stomach churning. At home, Sandra sat cross-legged on the floor, chewing the edge of her wrapper. Obi was trying to tie his torn slippers together with thread. "Nothing today?" Obi asked. Chinelo didn't answer. She walked to the corner, picked up a black nylon bag, and slung it across her shoulder. "Where you dey go?" Sandra asked. "To find something." She reached the market by noon, hovering around stalls. She spotted a plump woman roasting corn by the roadside with a nylon bag half-zigged behind her stool. Chinelo moved slowly, pretending to pick groundnuts. She snatched the bag and ran. "Thief! Thief!" the woman screamed. Chinelo dashed into the back alley, zigzagging past crates, goats, and startled passerby. She climbed a low fence and dropped into someone's backyard. By the time she reached home, sweat drenched her shirt. She locked the door, poured the content of the bag on the mat, and froze. Bundle of notes, real this time. She reached for them with trembling hands. Her mouth twitched into a smile. Finally, then something shifted. A cockroach crawled out from beneath one of the bundles. Then another, and another. She yelped, jumped back, swatted at the insects, but they kept coming. In seconds, the mat was swarming with cockroaches, crawling over the money. She screamed, threw the whole thing outside, and kicked it into the gutter. The neighbors laughed. Chinelo slammed the door and collapsed on the floor, her hands on her head. That night, she didn't speak to anyone. Obi boiled water and added salt. Sandra drank it in silence. The next day, Chinelo joined a group of boys planning to snatch a phone from a woman who sold provisions near the bus park. They refused at first. "Make una no carry her," one of them said. "She go spoil the thing." But Chinelo begged, "I swear, I no go mess am up. I go just stand guard." They gave her the job to watch the road. The grab was fast. The boys ran in different directions. Chinelo ran too, only to trip over a loose stone, fall flat, and crash into a pile of crates. The woman's shout drew a small mob. Someone recognized Chinelo. "She there among!" Before she could run, hands grabbed her shirt, slapped her cheeks, dragged her by the collar. Someone reached for a plank. "She wants her phone. Break her head." Another man raised a heavy stick, and he stopped mid-air. "Leave her," a stranger shouted, pushing towards the crowd. "Na my sister." The crowd hesitated. "She dey craze. You know she say she dey thief." "I say na my sister. She get problem. Make I carry am go house. I go handle her." Grudgingly, they released her. Chinelo, bruised and dazed, leaned onto the stranger as they staggered down the street. He didn't say a word. He just helped her walk to the next junction. She never saw him again. At home, Obi stared at the bruises on her face. "The thing wey you dey do, e no dey help." She didn't answer. "Na so you go continue. What if dem burn you? Make una go find work. Make una see if food go appear." She snapped. "Or make I just sit? Watch una die for hunger." Obi turned away. Sandra began to cry. Chinelo sat on the floor, wiped blood from her lips, and stared at the flickering flame on their tiny lamp. Even she was beginning to wonder if her life would ever make sense. The sun was setting when Chinelo walked past the new estate construction at the edge of town. It wasn't her usual path, but she was restless and needed to clear her head. Her jaw still ached from the last beating, and her mind was full of noise. Obi's silence, Sandra's tears, the whispers from neighbors calling her useless. She walked slowly, dragging her slippers in the dust. That was when she saw him. A young man in knit jeans and a plain black t-shirt stood by the gate, talking to one of the site workers. His shoes were clean. His skin was smooth, not touched by hustle. He didn't belong here. He turned, saw her watching, and smiled slightly. "Good evening," he said. Chinelo didn't respond. "You live around here?" She shrugged. "Why?" "Just asking. I'm waiting for someone." She nodded, ready to walk off. "Wait," he said. "Do you know where I can buy cold malt around here? Everywhere seems far." Chinelo paused, then pointed to a nearby kiosk. That woman forgets. Thank you, he said, reaching for his wallet. My name's Arinze. She didn't offer hers. He walked to the kiosk. Chinelo watched him, her eyes narrowing. Something shimmered on his left wrist. A bracelet. It wasn't the flashy type worn by the street boys. It was simple, gold-colored, with tiny carvings around the edge. The way it caught the fading sunlight made it look expensive. Her heartbeat quickened. She didn't plan it. She didn't even think about it. But when he set down the small bag and turned to pay the woman, Chinelo stepped close, lifted the bracelets with one swift move, and disappeared into the nearby bush. She didn't stop running until she reached home. In their room, she locked the door, dropped the bag on the floor, and opened her palm. The bracelet felt warm, real. She waited. Nothing vanished. No cockroach, no blanket paper, no mob. Just her, the room, and the bracelet. She stared at it for a long time. The carvings looked almost like symbols. She didn't understand them, but she knew what value looked like. This wasn't market jewelry. This was wealth. She hid it inside a crack in the wall, wrapped in an old sock. For the first time in a long time, Chinelo smiled. 3 days passed. Chinelo didn't dare touch the bracelet again. She just kept checking to make sure it was still there, tucked inside the wall, wrapped in the same grey sock. She hadn't told Obi or Sandra. They wouldn't understand. She had made quite inquiries through a few contacts about where to sell gold, but nothing concrete had come yet. Still, she held on to the hope that this would finally be the one thing that worked. That afternoon, she was patching Sandra's slippers with an old piece of tire when a knock landed on their door. "Who be that?" she shouted. No answer. Another knock. She stood, wiped her hands on her shirt, and opened the door slowly. Her heart stopped. Arinze stood there, his expression calm but searching. "Hello, Chinelo," he said. She didn't respond. Her eyes darted around. Who told him her name? How did he find her? "I asked around," he said gently, as if reading her thoughts. "You're not hard to find." She stepped outside, closing the door behind her. "What do you want?" He looked at her, his eyes scanning her face. "I've been looking for something." "A bracelet. The one I wore the day we met." She folded her arms. "And so? I just thought maybe you might have seen it." Chinelo raised her chin. "You dare accuse me?" "No," he said quickly. "No accusations. It means a lot to me. It's not just a jewel. It's something personal, something important." "I don't see anything," she said flatly. He nodded, like he expected the answer. "If you happen to come across it, please, I'd really appreciate it if you returned it." She didn't reply. He turned to leave, then paused. "Nice slippers patch job," he said with a small smile. She watched him walk away until he disappeared around the bend. That evening, she stood beside the wall, staring at the socks. She couldn't sleep. The next day, he came again. This time, he bought roasted yam and oil in a small takeaway plate. "I figured you might not have eaten." Chinelo frowned. "I no be beggar. I didn't say you were." Still, she took the food. That was how it began. He started visiting. Sometimes he brought granules, other times malt. They sat on an old bench outside the compound and talked. She didn't say much, but he kept coming, and gradually, she spoke more. About Obi, about Sandra, about how things had been since her mother died, about the job she couldn't find, the things she tried, the things that had always failed. One day he asked, "What do you really want to do?" She thought for a moment. "Carpentry. I fit build table, chair. I sabi work with hand. I just no get tools." He nodded. "If you had a workshop, would you use it?" She laughed. "If I had a workshop, I go turn Dangote." He smiled. "Okay." The next week he showed up again. "Follow me." She was suspicious but followed him anyway. They reached a small wooden shed near the end of the street. Inside were basic tools: hammer, nails, measuring tape, a small workbench. The floor was swept clean. Sunlight poured through the hole in the roof. "For you," he said. Chinelo blinked. "For who?" "You." She walked in slowly, touched the wood, tapped the workbench. She turned to him, unsure of what to say. "I spoke to someone who owed me a favor. The space is paid for, 6 months. After that, we'll see." She didn't cry. She didn't even smile. She just sat on the bench and whispered, "Thank you." For the first time in years, something good had come to her, and it hadn't disappeared. Business was slow, but the shed gave Chinelo dignity. She repaired broken stools, built crude shelves, and made small benches for market women. Obi would sometimes help sand wood in the evenings. Sandra swept the floor, humming to herself. For once, their home had some breathing. Arinze kept showing up. He would drop by, drop off wood or supplies, bring lunch, or just sit and talk. Chinelo grew used to him. His presence no longer made her stiff. Sometimes, when she was hammering away, she'd forget he was even there. But every now and then, her eyes would wander to the hidden bracelet still wrapped in the old socks, buried beneath a loose plank under her bed. One afternoon, Arinze came to the shop with a nylon bag. "Wetin dey here?" she asked, wiping sweat from her forehead. "Something I want you to wear." She frowned. "I know they do all this joke." Oh. He unwrapped the bag. A pink dress, simple, knee length, sleeveless, soft fabric. Her nose wrinkled. "I know wear all these girl things. Just once, let me take you out. You've been helping me with advice. This is a thank you." "I know they do dates." "It's not a date, just food, maybe a cold drink, somewhere calm." She hesitated. That evening, after much grumbling and argument, Chinelo stood in front of a cracked mirror in their room. Sandra gasped, "Auntie, you fine." Obi chuckled. "You even get shaped like woman." Chinelo threw a pillow at him, but even she was shocked by what she saw. The dress hugged her figure gently. Her shoulders looked slimmer, her legs longer. Her face, when clean and free of dust, almost soft. She walked out, arms folded, daring anyone to comment. At the small restaurant by the riverside, Arinze held the door for her. "You look beautiful. Abeg, make we chop," she muttered. They ate quietly. Jollof rice, fried plantain, cold mud. She stole glances at him, wondering how someone so different could find comfort around her. "Can I introduce you to my parents sometime?" he asked. She coughed. "Why? They would like you. I talk a lot about you." She stared at him. "Your girlfriend no go vex?" He smiled. "She might, but you give better advice than she does. Now because I don't like nonsense. That's why I listen to you." A week later, he took her to his family compound, a simple bungalow with a large garden and the flower pot lined along the porch. His father was tall, lean, with sharp eyes that didn't miss much. His stepmother had kind hands and a gentle voice. When they saw Chinelo, they paused. The father stepped forward. "You look very familiar, my dear." Chinelo lowered her head. "Sir, you remind me so much of someone I once knew." She didn't ask questions. She answered politely, smiled when spoken to, and kept her voice low. Later that night, back at home, she sat by the wall, staring at the spot where the bracelet was hidden. She hadn't told him yet. Not yet, but her chest was heavy. The wind was strong that night. Chinelo sat outside their room, her elbows on her knees, her eyes staring at the moonlight, bouncing off the saint's roof. Sandra had long gone to sleep, and Obi was inside, coming as he scribbled something from an old notebook he picked from a dustbin. But Chinelo's mind wasn't still. The bracelet weighed on her chest, figuratively and literally. She had placed it in her pocket that evening, intending to return it, but every time she looked at Arinze's face, something froze in her throat. What if he stopped talking to her? What if he hated her? What if he took back the workshop? But her chest wouldn't let her rest, and she was tired of running from herself. She walked towards his compound. He opened the gates before she knocked. "You dey act like you dey read my mind," she said with a weak smile. "I saw you coming through the window," he said, stepping aside. "Come in." They sat under the mango tree beside the house. "I wan talk something," she began. He looked at her, waiting. "I take am." He blinked. "What?" She reached into her pocket, pulled out the bracelet, and dropped it into his palm. "I take am that day when you drop ball. I carry am. I wan sell am. I dey find money. I swear I no plan am before, but I just see am and I dey desperate." Arinze didn't speak. "I try return am that day wey you come, but I no fit. You dey talk nice. You even give me show. You show me say I fit be better person. I no wan spoil am, but the guilt dey kill me." Still, he said nothing. "I just wan make you know, na the only thing I ever thief wey no disappear or spoil. I even surprised say I still fit hold am." He finally spoke. "You held it for this long?" She nodded. "No dream? No. No sickness? No." He looked at the bracelet, then back at her. "You sure say nothing ever happened to you since you touched this thing?" "Nothing," she whispered. "Why?" He closed his fingers around the bracelet, leaned back on the bench, and let out a breath. "This bracelet, it's not ordinary. It's not for fashion or show." She watched him, puzzled. "It's been in my family for generations. You can't just hold it. Not without being one of us." Chinelo squinted. "I don't understand. People have tried to steal it before. Some returned it after falling sick. Others didn't even live long enough to return it." She stiffened. "What do you mean?" He looked at her closely. "I mean, it's not normal. And you've had it all this while." "I not die," she said quietly. He nodded. That was confusing. She looked away, her hands suddenly cold. "You dey talk like say na charm." He shook his head. "No, it's not juju. It's something else. It belongs to only my bloodline." She frowned. "You dey call me your family?" "I don't know," he said, "but it might be time you found out who you really are." Chinelo stood up on ease. "I know who I be. I be Chinelo. My mama don't die. I dey take care of Obi and Sandra. My papa..." She trailed off. Arinze stood beside her. "Sometimes the people we think are our parents aren't." She stared at him. "Wetin dey try talk?" He met her eyes. "Maybe you need to go back. Ask questions." Chinelo didn't answer. She turned and walked away without another word. The bracelet no longer in her pocket, but now resting heavier in her mind than ever before. Chinelo walked the long, quiet road to the outskirts of town where her so-called father lived. The compound was smaller now, overgrown with weeds. The faded gate creaked as she pushed it open. The man who opened the door hadn't changed much. Still lean, still bitter, still with the scroll that made children scatter. He frowned the moment he saw her. "You again? Wetin you want?" "I won't talk," she said, her voice firm. "I need answers." "I don't want you. Stop calling me Papa. I no be your papa." "Then tell me, who is?" He scoffed and tried to shut the door. She blocked it with her foot. "Just tell me," she said, this time softer. He hesitated, then pulled the door open fully and walked back into the house. She followed. The sitting room smelled like dust and sweat. A low plastic chair, a broken TV, and a half carton of beer on the floor. He sat down and lit a cigarette. "You really want to know?" "Yes." He looked at her for a long time, then spoke. "Your mama, that woman gets stubbornness. That stubbornness no be small. She come back one day, now when we still dey date, carry you for hand, say she must raise you by force. I ask am where she carry this pikin from. She say make I no ask stupid question." Chinelo's breath caught. "I think say na one small mistake she make, but from that day, everything for my life begin scatter. Business crash, customers disappear, money vanish. I tell her make she take you go back wherever she carry you from. She refuse. He leaned back and spat on the floor. "We marry o." Tears get worse. She still no gree. I tell her one day, "I no wan see you again." After that fight, she carry all your siblings leave. Chinelo stared at him, heart pounding. "So you dey tell me say I no be your blood?" He laughed bitterly. "You think say I go claim bad luck like you?" "Chinelo, everything about you na wahala. Even your face dey bring problem." She felt it, the dull ache she hadn't felt in years, the one that had always come when he used to push her away, call her names or slap her for calling him dad. But this time she didn't cry. She stood up. "Thank you for telling me. Make you no come here again o," he said, waving her off. Cursed child. She walked out of the house and didn't look back. That night, she sat outside the shed Arinze built. Obi and Sandra were asleep. Arinze joined her on the bench. She told him everything. He listened silently, then nodded. "I want you to come with me somewhere." "Where?" "My father needs to hear this." The next morning, they traveled to a nearby village. Arinze's family house looked different now, larger, more refined. Chinelo didn't miss the presence of men outside, guards dressed in traditional wrappers and red caps. Inside, his father sat on a carved wooden chair, wearing a wrapper and beads around his neck. Chinelo bowed slightly. "Good morning, sir." "Welcome," he said. "You've come with questions." She nodded. Her voice trembled as she explained her mother's sudden return home with a baby, the rejection, the suffering, and the bracelet. When she finished, the man was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Sit down," which she did. Then he said, "Many years ago, our kingdom had a law, a wicked one, if I'm honest. Any child born as a twin was considered unfit for kingship. The twins were seen as a threat to succession. The people believed having twins was a curse upon the royal line." Chinelo's eyes didn't blink. "My wife and I were married for years without a child. We prayed, fasted. Finally, she got pregnant. Her belly was big, too big. I suspected, but she kept saying it was one child." He exhaled. "I was away when she gave birth. When I came back, she handed me my son Arinze. That was all." Arinze sat still. Chinelo looked down. Years later, the man continued, "I got a whisper from a nurse who had served at the clinic that there were two, a boy and a girl." Chinelo's hands trembled. "I didn't know what to believe. My wife never spoke of it. She died before I could ask. But you," he looked at her, "you said you held the bracelet for weeks." She nodded. He stood slowly. "No outsider has ever held that bracelet without pain, sickness, or death. But you survived." The palace was nothing like Chinelo had ever known. The walls stood tall and proud. The floor sparkled and every corridor echoed with the kind of silence that only came from comfort. Yet, despite the beauty, it took her time to believe she wasn't dreaming. The girl once chased for stealing bread could now sit at the table where kings dined. Her days were different now. No more walking at dawn to hustle for menial labor. No more returning home with torn slippers and scraped knees. She now had her own quarters, soft clothes, warm food, and most importantly, peace. But adjusting wasn't easy. She still bathed with cold water by habit. She still folded her wrappers like she would sleep on the floor. The palace attendant watched in silence, unsure of how to serve a princess who moved like a street girl. Obi and Sandra were the happiest. Her siblings adapted quickly, dressed in fine uniforms, sent to a good school, and cared for with the best the land could offer. But they never forgot how Chinelo had suffered to raise them. Obi once said, "Even if we live in a golden house, you're still our mama." Chinelo laughed at that. It wasn't wrong. She had carried the weight of a mother, fought like a father, and endured like someone twice her age. The scars on her leg, the burn on her wrist, and the mark near her eye, they were reminders of a past she wasn't ashamed of. The king did not hesitate to take responsibility after confirming everything through private investigation. He made it clear Chinelo was his daughter, his twin daughter. He called a council meeting, and before the elders and chief, he abolished the ancient law that once forbade twins from inheriting the throne. His voice was firm. The kingdom will no longer operate under fear. A child is a gift, twin or not. Many of the elders had no words. Some nodded, others looked away, but no one challenged him. Times had changed, and in that moment, Chinelo became something greater than just a girl with a lost past. She became a symbol of change. Still, she didn't become proud. Chinelo remained grounded. She visited the carpentry shop Arinze helped her set up. The workers there now addressed her with reverence. She always waved it off. "Just call me Chinelo," she would say, wiping sweat from her brow as she picked up the hammer. She wanted to finish what she had started. Carpentry was still her passion, and royalty would not take that from her. As for Arinze, he never changed towards her. He grew even closer, not as lovers, but as something deeper. Siblings who had found each other after years of confusion. He would still come to her portals, lie on her couch and talk about politics, his dreams, his relationship drama. Chinelo would listen, offer blunt advice and tease him like she always had. His girlfriend, initially shaken by the closeness, eventually calmed down after learning the truth. She apologized one day while Chinelo was supervising furniture delivery. "I thought you were trying to take him from me," she admitted, embarrassed. "I didn't know you were his sister." Chinelo only nodded. "It's okay. I didn't know either." From that day, they two found peace. The household became more united, and slowly, Chinelo began to settle into her place. Her education was next. The king hired the best private tutors for her. Chinelo struggled at first. Her English wasn't fluent, and books looked foreign to her, but she was determined. Every evening after class, she would go back to revise until midnight. She knew that to truly stand tall, she had to equip her mind too. There were days she cried in frustration, but she didn't stop. Then came the day of the village celebration. It was an annual event where the royal family appeared before the people, not in their official regalia, but in unity with the community. Chinelo had never attended before now. Such gathering meant stealing from distracted traders or sneaking food for her siblings. But this time, she walked with the king and Arinze dressed in fine fabrics, her hair neatly braided and her face calm. The villagers stared. Some whispered, others clapped. Many didn't know her face, but once the king introduced her, guards filled the air. "This is Chinelo," he said, "my daughter and a survivor. She was lost, but now is home." Let her life remind us that no one should be cast aside because of fear. There was a long silence, then the applause came. Chinelo didn't wave or cry. She only bowed gently, her eyes scanning the crowd. Among them, she spotted some of the women who had once chased her with broom. One of them wiped a tear and clapped the loudest. Back in the palace, that night, Chinelo sat alone in the garden. The moon was bright. Obi and Sandra were already asleep. Arinze passed by and dropped a meat pie on her lap. "I know you'd like this." He grinned. She smiled, tearing it open. "You know me well." He sat beside her. "Do you miss your old life?" Chinelo looked ahead. "Sometimes, but not the pain, just the strength it gave me." He nodded. "You're the strongest person I know." She turned to him. "You are too. You just didn't get lost like I did." He looked down. "No, but I'm glad you found your way back." Chinelo leaned back on the chair, watching the stars. For the first time in her life, she had no questions, no fear, no shame. She had her name, her family, her siblings, and her peace. She wasn't unlucky. She was Chinelo, and she had finally come home. The end. Some of the lessons to be learned from Chinelo's story are: desperation can lead to mistakes, but redemption is always possible. Sometimes life doesn't make sense until the truth is revealed. Your beginning do not define your destiny. Family is not always about blood. It's about love, loyalty, and sacrifice. Let go of shame when you step into your truth. True strength is rising after the fall. When truth is hidden, injustice continues. When truth comes out, healing begins. Never underestimate where your destiny can find you. I hope you enjoyed this wonderful story. Please do not forget to leave a comment if you actually enjoyed this story. Share this story to someone you know would also enjoy this, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, my loves, bye. Mwah.
Thank you so much for watching till the end. Please click on the subscribe button to support us. Turn on the post notification to get notified when I upload a new story. Like, share, and comment your thoughts. Till then, bye.